Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Davender. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the University of Rochester. And we're so incredibly excited to have the opportunity to connect with you today and talk to you a little bit about the University of Rochester and joined by three wonderful individuals, senior leaders within the university, Dr. Gloria Culver, Dr. Wendy Heinzelman, and Dr. Jeffrey Runner. And I want to extend my appreciation to all of them for taking time out of their day to meet with all of you and be a resource as you ask questions and learn a little bit more about the University of Rochester. It's certainly been an incredible year for all of us, and I want to definitely make sure to extend my appreciation to all of you for coming. I hope that your families, friends, and the rest of your schoolmates are healthy and well, and you're navigating the challenges as best you can. And I know that it's difficult to determine the feel and the tone of a university, not having the opportunity to step foot on the campus. And we certainly are missing the opportunity to see you face to face and congratulate you and your parents and your families for the wonderful accomplishment of being admitted to the University of Rochester and having, I'm sure, many wonderful opportunities ahead. So with that, I want to just throw out a few housekeeping items. One is, if you could, at the very bottom of your screen, I believe that you might have a hand raise feature. So if you can hear me, please just raise your hand, and that will be helpful for us. It certainly seems as though you can all hear us, so that's wonderful news. Secondly, for the questions, we are going to be using the Q&A feature that is at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions, if questions come to mind, please do post those through the Q&A feature. And then what I'll be doing is collecting those and providing those to our panelists so that we can answer those questions. You may also post some questions, and you may get a question directly back through to you in a written form. We do have some folks who are behind the scenes who are providing some answers as well, just to make sure that we can keep up with all the great questions that I'm sure that are going to be coming. And then lastly is that we are recording this, and it will be made available on the 2024 experience, a part of the admission website. So if you'd like to revisit this or make it known to some friends or other folks who have been admitted, you certainly can do that as well. So without any further ado, I want to turn it over to our panelists and allow them to introduce themselves. And again, thank you so much to the three of you for being with us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gloria Culver.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Gloria Culver. I'm Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. I'm also a professor of biology in the School of Arts and Sciences and a professor of biochemistry in the School of Medicine and Dentistry here at the university. The School of Arts and Sciences is made up of 18 different departments and about 12 or 13 different programs. We span 3 domains. We have the humanities and arts, the social sciences, and the natural sciences. So I say I get everything from art and art history to physics and astronomy within my portfolio. The school has about 270 tenure track faculty. We have about 80 instructional track faculty, huge, wonderful staff, and I'm happy to try to answer questions about program, about different majors, anything that interests you. And I do want to reiterate what Jason said, and I hope that you are all healthy, and I hope that while you're trying to make this foundational choice in your career, your child's career, their academic career, that you're getting the information you need, and that's why we're here today. So welcome and thank you.
I'm up next. My name is Wendy Heinzelman. I'm the Dean of the Hajim School of Engineering and Applied Sciences and also a professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Rochester. I'll tell you a little bit about my school and also some of the different opportunities that you have when you come to the University of Rochester. So we have 6 departments within the Hajim School of Engineering and a couple of additional programs on top of that. One of the things that I think that's really unique about the University of Rochester is that we have one undergraduate college, and you're going to hear from Jeff Runner next, who's the dean of that undergraduate college. But what that means is that students who come and are studying in engineering and taking a major in engineering also have the opportunity to take any classes in arts and sciences, so any of the disciplines and domains Gloria was talking about. And I think that's something that's really unique and beneficial, that students really do cross-pollinate across engineering, the humanities, the social sciences, and the sciences. And it's something that we're very proud of, is the interdisciplinary nature of many of our programs and many of the opportunities that we provide students while they're on campus. As Gloria and Jason were both saying, we're very sorry that you are not able to come to our actual physical campus, which hopefully you've at least experienced virtually, seen pictures, taken virtual tours. It's a beautiful campus. We're very proud of the campus, and it's a very special place for all of us. I wanted to just mention a couple of things that we feel very strongly about making sure students who come to Rochester have lots of opportunities for experiential learning, for learning outside of the classroom. And a couple of areas that we really stress that I think are important to think about wherever you end up, and especially I will speak to those of you who are considering engineering. I think some of these are incredibly important for engineers, is to make sure you get research experience wherever you go while you're on campus. And one of the things about coming to the University of Rochester is that you are at an R1 research institute, and our faculty members are doing world-class research, everything from, as Gloria was saying, art history to studying new ways of understanding the universe. And it's a good opportunity for students to be able to participate in that. The second opportunity we like to stress is global opportunities. There's lots of opportunities for our students to get global experiences, whether it's a study abroad experience or a theater in London experience through the English program. And we encourage students to really take advantage of those. And the last opportunity, which I think is most particular for engineers, is internship opportunities. Certainly all engineers have the opportunity to get internship at local companies, at international companies, and we have a wonderful career center that helps students navigate some of those issues. So I think there's a lot of really great opportunities that we have at the University of Rochester, and I look forward to discussing these a little bit more through the Q&A session, but I'll turn it over to Dean Runner next.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. My name is Jeff Runner. I'm the Dean of the college. The college is the undergraduate unit that sort of pulls together all arts and sciences and the Hajim School. All of the undergrads that come to the University of Rochester that study in arts, sciences, and engineering study in the college. I've been a faculty member at the U of R now since 1994. I was a faculty member in the linguistics department and also secondarily in the brain and cognitive sciences department. So if you have questions about linguistics or brain and cognitive sciences, you can ask me those as well. My purview, so Gloria and Wendy both, they sort of hire faculty and they run departments. My job is sort of everything about the student experience, both within the classroom and outside of the classroom. So I'm responsible for activities having to do with the curricular pieces of the college. So some of the offices that report to me are the College Center for Advising Services, so where all the advisors are, Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, which is a place that supports students in tutoring and things like that. But I also, my purview also goes into what's going on outside of the classroom, everything from residence life to the Dean of Students and the student life experiences, and also all the offices that support the student experience, so the career services, education abroad, Interfaith Chapel, the Office of Minority Student Affairs, the Kern Center, which supports first generation and other students, the Language Center. I always have to look at my list because there's actually a lot. The Rochester Center for Community Leadership. Wendy touched on some of the things that I'm most excited about, which is really recognizing how important the experiences students have outside of the classroom are. So one thing about being on a residential campus like the University of Rochester is you're living with us, you're part of a community. And it's not just the time you're spending in the classes that's part of your experience and what you're developing, but actually the outside experiences, including the relationships you're making with your peers, and your friends and your teachers and the wonderful staff we have. And in those experiences, students develop leadership, students develop the ability to work together. And so I see my job as sort of helping us think about all of the students and the experiences they're having to sort of develop into really full human beings. So when they're finally ready to leave us and move on to other experiences, they're really very well prepared. So that's sort of my shtick. So I'll let Jason take it over from here.
Sure. Again, thanks so much. And one of the questions, so when we had folks have an opportunity to register, they were able to put in some information about what they were interested in getting out of it. And, you know, there was a lot of questions about community and, you know, just the vibe of the University of Rochester. And that's a question that I'll perhaps pose second. But the first question I had for each of you is certainly, all of us are living in a time where I don't know if we've ever experienced anything like this working within, you know, college, the college environment or any environment. But, and I know that there's been a lot of meetings and conversations and a lot of working together in the last certainly month, beyond of what is already going on, you know, at the University of Rochester before. But the question is, you know, what comes to mind as you reflect on the past month in regards to the University of Rochester? And maybe this comes from, you know, part professional, part personal, and sometimes it's one and the same. So I guess, how can you reflect on the last month about just Rochester in general? And maybe I'll kick it off to Gloria and have you go, Gloria, Dr. Culver, and have you go first.
Thanks, Jason. I think if I think of one word about the last month and how the university community has reacted, I think of resilient. I have been so impressed by efforts of the staff and the faculty and the students to really take this very uncertain situation that we all find ourselves in and try to find every best way to keep students engaged, to keep research projects going, to keep connections that were severed because we are no longer physically in the same proximity, but to keep all of that going. I think that the amount of sort of willingness to get out of our comfort zones and to try different ways of teaching remotely or interacting remotely, or, you know, how proficient we all became in Zoom in less than 24 hours was really sort of, I think, it strikes at the heart of what is great about being at a university, and that is people are always willing to explore and to learn and to ask new questions. And so I think for me, as a professional, I have just been impressed by everybody's resiliency, also everybody's sense of humor during some very, very tough times. I also have been hugely impressed by the compassion that we've seen from our community for those who are either struggling with the illness, those who are on the front lines at the medical center, those who are in the community doing hard work to make sure everybody can stay safe and as healthy as possible. Personally, I have learned that I really am happy I have a home office. I have a teenager at home who is now trying to finish their 10th grade in high school, and I have a husband who's teaching his classes from home. And so having a space where I can, I am fortunate enough to be able to continue my day-to-day activities for the university, but while 5 miles away from my normal office is hugely, I'm very appreciative for.
Do you want me to?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
So I was really, so before we had to socially distance, but we knew that we were making the decision to have the students stay home after spring break. I was in a room of about 30 of my colleagues, my staff that work with me, and we were getting into teams of people that were going to tackle this. How are we going to deliver the teaching? How are we going to support the students and make sure they're still having activities that are going to keep them interested and engaged? How are we going to think about all of these outside of the classroom experiences that we really depend on, but suddenly have to be done remotely. How are we going to deal with all of the nitty gritty of this different kind of grading and all of this? And I couldn't tell you how proud I was of my colleagues who I knew were really great, but to see them just pull it together in such a short amount of time to really figure out how we're going to do this. And, you know, their goal, all of them are focusing on the students and what are the students' experience and how is this going to be positive and productive for the students. And it's really, it makes me really happy to be part of this community. And, you know, it makes me really, you know, proud to invite you guys to join us because I think it's a really great place. And, you know, this is the community we're in even when we're not in a crisis, but holy, you know, this crisis has really, it's really helped us see who we are and understand who we are. And I love it.
Thanks. Dr. Hiezelman?
Yeah, when you asked the question, I actually thought both were very much related because my answer for your first question was going to be community. I think that, you know, one of the things this has really highlighted is what a strong community we have, and the fact that everyone did pull together to, you know, from faculty turning within a week and a half, they had to get their classes from in-person to online. And this included things like figuring out how do you do labs remotely? What do you do with senior design projects where every engineer has to do a senior design project? They were halfway through the projects. How do you finish that up? And it was very much a community effort where groups of people came together and said, how do we think about this issue? How do we think about that issue? How do we make sure that our students get the best possible experience they can get, while also recognizing that our students are dealing with a lot of issues, everything from family issues to going somewhere where there is no internet access or there is no reliable internet access. How do we ensure that they still get the experience that we can support them? And I do think it makes you very proud to be part of a community like this. I will also say, just in general, even outside of COVID, I feel like our students are very special. They are very, very smart kids who come here, top of their class. They're just have lots of opportunities. But one of the things that I think really differentiates students who come to the University of Rochester is our motto is Meliora, which means ever better. And I think that motto really permeates everything we do, and it really defines our students who come here. People who come to the University of Rochester, whether it's to work or to study, really want to figure out how do they make themselves better, how do they make their community better, and how do they make the world better. And so we've got these really smart kids who are thinking very deeply about making the world a better place. And I think that really makes it a very special community to be a part of.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of that. And so I think that there was a lot of conversation about community and tone, and perhaps that's resonated from the first question. We've gotten a couple questions about the academic experience, and one in particular that talked about American Sign Language, but I think I'll kind of, you know, take that out a little bit further and talk about, here it says what category of faculty, but maybe just in general, the makeup of the faculty, the type of academic instructors that the undergraduates would have an opportunity to engage with, perhaps maybe early on, but throughout their 4-year experience.
I guess I'll start this one. So we do have, because I think one of the questions was about where sort of different things fall, where different majors fall and so forth. As Gloria said, we have different divisions. So within arts and sciences, we have the humanities and the performing arts. We have social sciences and natural sciences. And my division is engineering. And so students have an opportunity to go across all of these, and the faculty that you are learning from, they are, as I mentioned in the beginning, they're research active faculty. So our classes are taught by our faculty, tenure track and instructional track. Faculty teach the majority of our classes. There are TAs that you interface with. So all of our big classes will be broken up to have workshops and to have sections and to have labs. And those are typically taught by TAs who are part of the course. But you know, I think it's an environment that allows you to really get to know the faculty members who are part of your program. And the way our curriculum is set up, you're actually required to go outside of your division. So if you're in, let's say, taking a major in the natural sciences, you have to do something called a cluster in either the humanities, in both the humanities and the social sciences. And engineers have to take clusters outside of engineering, so in humanities or social sciences. And this really allows you to explore passions that you might have outside of your primary major, and to get to know and meet faculty in different divisions, and even more importantly from my perspective, to see a different way of thinking about things, because how the humanists think about subjects and think about research and think about their disciplines is very different than how engineers think about it. And so getting that opportunity to see those the diverse points of view, I think is really important and valuable for our students.
I think Wendy covered that beautifully. I think that the student experience is really one of what I like to talk about, is that it feels like you're on a small liberal arts campus that's surrounded by a Research One engine. And so you get the best of both worlds. I think you get the getting to know the faculty, you get to know all your peers, you have these cohorts throughout the majors, but you do also have a huge opportunity to engage in cutting edge, top of the line research, and have those sorts of faculty teach you in the classroom, but also have the opportunity to work with them in the lab, in the design studio, in the art studio, in the library on research projects. So I think that the interaction is very much multi-pronged, in that one of the reasons I came to the university was because I wanted to be in a very organic, rich undergraduate environment, but I very much wanted to make sure I still could keep my academic research career as prominent as it could possibly be.
Thank you. One of the other, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add that the flexibility of the curriculum actually allows and encourages students to really explore different areas. Wendy touched on the fact that we have really no real barriers across these different divisions. And then actually the curriculum is set up to sort of encourage students to explore different things. And a lot of the students that come here and are students with very diverse interests. So students who are interested in engineering, but also interested in music. And we find those are some of the students that really enjoy coming here the best, because the curriculum is set up not to exclude one or the other. On the other hand, even though this curriculum is very flexible and very open, we have a lot of advisors and a lot of people supporting students as they're trying to make the decisions that they need to make as they go through the curriculum. So even the open and flexible curriculum can sound scary too, because it's under-structured, but there's a lot of help for students who want help with the structure. So it's really the best of both worlds for students who really want to try lots of different things, and also students who want to sort of have some guidance along the way.
You touched on, kind of people there to help you guide them through making some of these decisions. And one of the questions that popped up spoke directly to career services and that particular office. And that certainly is a group of individuals who are helping students navigate decisions at a particular point in their college career. Dr. Runner, could you talk a little bit about the career services and kind of how that is set up, and perhaps maybe some things that they're working on now that's directly impacted by the situation that we're all in?
Sure. So the Green Career Center is a really wonderful resource that we have for our students and for our undergraduate students as well, and even for alumni. One of the sort of the mantra or the vibe of the Career Center is that they're here to help students from day one throughout their careers. So a lot of times people may think, oh, the Career Center, that's where you go when you're like a senior and you need to get a job next year. That's not the way we think of it. We think about even a student thinking about next year in their academic year career is thinking about their career and where they're trying to go, what they're trying to do. And the Career Center is very much in this space of thinking about how to enrich students' experiences so that they learn about themselves, develop skills and develop so that when they do leave us, they are successful in going on to graduate school, getting positions or whatever. The Career Center spends a lot of time helping students develop opportunities such as internships. Another thing they do which is really fun is the trek. They do these road treks where they go to different parts of the country, like Silicon Valley or Boston for biotech, or DC for political engagement, to give students who are interested in thinking about these areas opportunities to see what these look like, and hosted by some of our alums. Things that have been impacted this summer, I mean, some of the internships that students were going to be taking have either been canceled or they've moved online. And so one of the things is, how can we make sure our students are still getting the kinds of experiences that are developing them the way an internship would over the summer. And Joe Testani, who's the director of the Green Center, is spending a lot of time. He leads one of these teams I mentioned earlier. He leads the team that's really trying to think about how can we continue to support our students developing skills when things have been limited in this way. But it's a really creative team. They're really thinking outside of the box about what is it a student gets by doing an internship, and can we replicate that without the actual physical internship? So it's been really fun to watch. And I think even when this is all over, we're going to have developed a lot of interesting and different ways of thinking about how to support our students as they're trying to enrich their experiences while they're here.
Thank you. One of the other questions, a couple questions have popped up into categories that I would kind of consider experiential learning. And certainly that can take the form of an internship. It could take the form of, in one particular question, asking about co-op opportunities, as well as a question that came up about our Take 5 program. So maybe Dr. Culver, Dr. Hiezelman, can you talk a little bit about Take 5 and maybe the experiential opportunities that students have in engineering if they are or are not co-ops?
Well, I'll start briefly on Take 5, and I actually think Jeff should jump in here too. So Take 5 is a 5th year after your senior year, which is tuition free, where you have to develop a proposal, have a faculty advisor or advising team, and work on something that is outside of the realm of your normal major. So it's really a way of broadening your horizons, of taking something that you've got interested in college but may have not directly fit into your major, and developing it into a full year project of study. We have students that do this. It is, like I said, you do have to apply for it, you do have to have a plan, but the students who do it find it to be an amazing opportunity and experience. It is basically like an extra year of full-time, full-on, intensive exploration of a project of interest or an area of interest. I think it's relatively unique in the way we run it. It does very much work on this idea that we are highly collaborative and integrative, because we want somebody to have an opportunity to develop an idea that goes beyond their major, and then to have the opportunity to fully explore that. So Jeff, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
No, I think you did a nice job. I mean, I think as a former faculty member, I mentored many students who did take 5 programs, and it gives students an opportunity to really think about some area that they've started developing interest in, but haven't really been able to focus on academically. And a lot of times these aren't actually majors. They're sort of areas of interest that are almost like research projects that the students themselves can develop with the help of a mentor, help of some classes. We also have what we call the E5 program, which is less familiar to people. The E you can think of as standing for experiential, maybe entrepreneurship. Originally it was entrepreneurship. That's also a free 5th year, that's also a free 5th year. But in this case, the students are doing something that creates some sort of social entrepreneurship project, some sort of project that will have a positive impact on the world. And that one's also a little different in that people can do teams. So you also will get pairs of people. So both of those are interesting fifth year, free fifth year, tuition free fifth year experiences that students can come here to do.
And then I'll pick up on the question about internships and co-ops. I will say we do have the opportunity for students to do co-ops. We don't have that many who actually do them. And the difference between an internship and a co-op is not often understood. So an internship is something that's done over the break, over summer. So you'll have a 3-month internship at Google or at Boeing or a small company, whatever. That gives you 3 months of experience working in industry. A co-op is a semester plus a summer. So you may take the spring semester, start at the company in January and continue up through the end of the summer through August, or start in June and continue through December. We do have the opportunity for students to do co-ops. The reason we don't have that many students who do it is because either it will add on to your time that you are spending on campus, or if you come in with credits and sort of come in ahead or overload, then there's a potential that you can still finish within 4 years. But because of that, many students decide to do an internship. And personally speaking, as an engineer and one who had many summer internships and went to a school that did offer co-ops that I did not do, I personally find that you get enough of the experience that you need working in industry for 3 months. It's a long enough time that you get to experience a full cycle of a project. If you have a good internship experience, you can get sometimes a product at the end, a paper at the end. It's enough time to actually get what is really beneficial about the experience in that summer period. I did also want to mention one other experiential program we have that I think is really exciting, that is not just for engineers, it's for all students. It's open to all students. It's our Grand Challenges Scholars Program. And this is a program where the National Academy of Engineering about 10 years ago created a list of some of the greatest challenges facing humanity moving forward. So this includes things like, how do you make sure everyone on the planet has access to clean water? How do you create energy from fusion? How do you engineer better medicines? All sorts of really big, deep questions. And the Grand Challenge Scholars Program allows students to choose one of those grand challenges that they're interested in exploring and complete 5 competencies related to that. So they do something research related, something interdisciplinary, a service component, an entrepreneurial component, and a global component. And once you complete those different components, and it can be done all sorts of different ways, this is very student driven, it can also be done in teams, then you become a Grand Challenge Scholar. You're presented with a medal at graduation saying that you completed this. It goes on your transcript and so forth. And that's a program that has really grown in popularity among our students because, again, I feel like our students are really, they're go-getters. They're the kind of students who are going to look for opportunities outside of just the kind of requirements for what to do. They're looking for opportunities to really make a difference, and this is one way that they do that.
So in any of those experiences, whether it is, working with staff in terms of, internships or the Take 5, E5 program, the Grand Challenges, there's a question that specifically asks about how available are professors to students? Is there flexibility in office hours? And I think this speaks to the community that we touched on earlier, but from your perspectives, working with within the academic arena on a daily basis, how might you describe the interactions between the undergraduate students and the faculty? Again, whether it is their first semester or whether it is their final.
All right. We all unmuted at once. I'll take a first stab at this. I think the faculty are actually very available. Many of the faculty know the students through classes, but also students who reach out to the faculty to ask about things. And I'll give a personal example. I mean, I've been a faculty member in electrical engineering for close to 20 years now. And, you know, whenever an undergraduate reaches out and asks about research or wants to meet with me, I have always met with the student. You know, outside of your office hours, you make the time to do it. And so, of course, you know, in some cases, faculty are overwhelmed because there might be too many students at a particular time. So it's not that you'll get a guaranteed response right away, but I think our faculty very much value the interaction with undergraduate students. I mean, they could go, you know, certainly in engineering, there are plenty of positions for PhD level researchers in industry, and there are lots of great jobs. Our faculty are here because they love being at an academic institution. They not only are strong researchers and want to do research, but they really love the interactions that they have with undergraduate students. So almost all of our faculty have undergraduate students who work in their research labs. They certainly set up office hours. So I think in general, I would say I feel like our faculty are available.
I was just going to repeat something Gloria said earlier, the comment about us being sort of like a liberal arts college in a R1 place on an R1 engine. And I think the liberal arts college piece is reflected by the interest the faculty have in working with the students. We're relatively small compared to some larger universities. That means the number of students to faculty ratio is very good. I was in a small department. We had, you know, I guess now it's like 8 faculty. It was maybe 5 at the time. We had maybe 20 or 30 majors, but you know, we knew every single student. They would be in your classes. You would have research opportunities. A student did mention in the questions about doing research in high school and wanting to continue that in college. We are looking at all sorts of ways to get students interested in research. So if you come here with research interests already, there's a very good chance you're going to be able to figure out a way to continue doing that. We have an Office of Undergraduate Research that's really set up to help connect, you know, students with faculty and getting students involved in research. So the research angle is a very clear direction for faculty and student relations, but also, of course, even just activities in classes and office hours and the like are opportunities for students to get to know faculty.
I think you guys covered that beautifully. I guess the one thing I'll say is that we do have, many of our faculty are very interested in working with students that are interested in doing work in the broader community. And this is something that's really important to who we are as a university. We are the biggest employer in the county in which the university sits in, and we feel a real obligation to the community. So we have actually, you can get a citation on your diploma for community engagement if you take classes that have this community engagement piece and go through a different series of electives around it. And the faculty are incredibly excited about this. The students that work with these faculty in these courses and these projects are hugely excited by this. So there are many, many ways in very traditional classes, in very non-traditional classes, and outside of the classroom where the faculty and students interact. And I think it is a reason why we have the sort of faculty we have, is because this is the sort of institution that we are. And what's very, very important to us is this connection with the students. And I think it is not the same, say, if you're at a place like Ohio State, where there are more you know, faculty than there are the entire people in our university community. So I think, you know, it depends on what you're looking for, but if you're looking for lots of faculty student engagement and lots of opportunities to try many different things, I think University of Rochester is a great place for you.
One of the questions, actually there was a couple questions that came up specific to some topics that we were talking about just moments ago. One was, when can you start to, or when do you apply for Take 5 or E5? And the other question was, when do you apply or begin thinking about the grand challenges? So I don't know if Dr. Hiezelman and Dr. Culver, Dr. Runner, if you guys could answer those.
Well, I can tell you about the Take 5 and the E5. So those programs, students can start applying for those as as juniors, I think, is the earliest. What we do actually, even though it's described as a tuition-free 5th year, and that's what it is, a lot of times students will prepare their plan during their junior year with the idea that they'll take the classes over the 4th and 5th year, sort of spread it out a little bit. So what we often will have is students who are juniors already accepted into the program, and even starting as seniors to start doing the program itself. But I have had students, I don't know if there's an early limit to when people can think about applying, but we certainly get lots of juniors and some first semester seniors as well.
And then for the Grand Challenges Scholars Program, we actually encourage students to apply the first year, because the goal is that this program extends throughout all 4 years. And you have, let's say, a research experience, maybe your sophomore year or the summer after sophomore year. You might have a global experience that relates to this sometime during your junior year. So you're weaving through all the elements of this program throughout your 4 years. And we do create sort of a cohort of students who are participating in the Grand Challenges Scholars Program. There are workshops and things that they can participate in that help them meet some of the goals of the program. So we encourage students to apply from first year. We do allow students, because the program is relatively new, it's only been around for 3 years, we do allow 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year students, even as far as 4th year, to still apply, but we encourage students to apply from their very first year on campus.
Okay. There's been a couple questions, and this is probably a question with no definitive answer at this point, but we've talked a lot about, connectivity between students and professors and the opportunity to have an academic experience. And now here we are in a virtual environment, right? And maybe if you could talk a little bit about, how do we still as a university maintain that connectivity when we aren't physically located in one place? And then secondarily to that, again, here's the unknown. What does the fall look like? And fully realizing that we may not have an answer at that point, but maybe if you could talk a little bit about, even if no definitive answer, what some of the what conversations are being had.
I can pick up the first part. One of the things that has been really interesting to see is the student life is still ongoing. So when students live on campus, I've mentioned that, we're a residential campus, people create communities. They're doing things together all the time. Every single night there's activities. Students are in Wilson Commons, students are at various locations having fun and doing things that are both academic or just, blowing off steam and having fun playing games and being parts of clubs and organizations. That stuff is not completely stopped. So as soon as we went online, all of the clubs and organizations started having their regular meetings, kind of like we're doing now. There's actually fun student activities still taking place. They're doing trivia nights. They're having, I don't remember what you call it, but there's these Netflix, they watch Netflix movies together. There's like this living room feature on, I guess, Zoom, I'm not sure. There's a lot of activities that are still ongoing. So for example, there's a student association they have a student association president and vice president, student association senate, and all of the class leaders. They just had their elections last week, and they had presidential debate in Zoom like this, where the same students that would normally be in a room in Wilson Commons together are having a meeting like this. And actually the attendance was even better than they normally would have gotten in one of the presidential debates that was in person. So it's been really interesting to watch the students continuing with their lives, maintaining their connections and their communities, even though they're not with each other. We do have some students on campus, but the vast majority of our students are back living at home, but they're still maintaining their communities, which is really interesting to see.
And I'll speak to some early preparations that we're doing for the fall, because like Jason said, we really just have no idea what things are going to be like in the fall. We're trying to plan for every possible combination of things. So if students are on campus, what will we be doing? And if students can't make it to campus but need to participate remotely? How do we support students both participating remotely and on campus? And so we are doing a lot of planning ahead of time to try and think of all possible scenarios that may happen and how to make the experience as beneficial, as educational, as fun, as interactive, and as socially engaging as possible if we can't have all of our students physically here on campus.
I think one thing that we all agree on is that if we had known we were switching to online this semester, the courses would have looked very different. You know, these courses were all designed to be in class, face-to-face classes, and this sort of sudden shift has been it's been a tough transition, but we're in a position now to actually start planning out carefully. If we do have online courses in the fall, what would they look like if we were going to really take advantage of the online platform? You know, setting things up so that flipped classrooms and other activities that really take advantage of the methodology of the technology and the platform. And I find it kind of exciting, and I think some of our faculty are interested. You know, a lot of people are having an opportunity to rethink, well, what am I trying to do in this class, and how can I do it in different ways? It's an exciting time, and I'm kind of whatever happens in the fall, I think this has really been a kind of a way to get people really woken up and alive and thinking about, well, what are we really trying to do here, and how can we best do it regardless of the circumstances?
Yeah, and one thing I'll add is that we've just been putting together 3 different task forces to work on how this will all play out. One is very much in the pedagogy space. How do we take advantage, as Jeff was saying, of the online environment and use it as an advantage and not as a detriment? Another is the hands-on experience like you get in lab or studio art or in some of the other hands-on senior design projects. And how can we, if we have some students on campus and some students not on campus, how do we make that work? And then there's one that I personally call a little more boring, but it's the facilities group on how do the nuts and bolts actually work? How do we, if we have to do extra cleaning or extra distancing, how do we make this all work within the environment of our real mission, which is educating our students? So we've been working very hard on this, and we've been joking during this the last month or so that we spend a lot of time planning things, and as we get close to an eventuality, everything moves and we just plan again. But this is actually, as Jeff said, it's not been wasted time. It's actually been invigorating in some ways about how we think about what we do and what's important in what we do, and how do you stick to that core mission.
There was a question that popped up, and it referenced, I think somebody had kind of used the phrase go-getters in describing the students at the University of Rochester. And, certainly as I've been out and about meeting with students and school counselors, right, I don't think students this year and at this particular time, they probably are, there's a lot of pressure on them to be, the A+ student, to be the best. And part of that can come with some anxiety. It might come with this idea that I've got to one up the person next to me in class, and this idea of a cutthroat or competitive environment. And there's also this idea of a collaborative environment in a rigorously academic environment. So I'm wondering if the 3 of you could speak to the general sense and student vibe at the University of Rochester, competitive versus collaborative, and do those 2 work together? Are they completely in 2 different spaces?
I would say our students tend to be competitive with themselves and collaborative with each other. So they are very high achieving students who are used to kind of doing the best that they can and working to always do, work at their optimum and their best. I would say though, among different students, I don't feel that the environment here is competitive. I feel it's very collaborative. I think our students work very hard to help each other. We have a lot of team building, group projects, those sorts of things. And I really do feel like the students here are very collaborative.
And I'll say that part of the way we run pieces of our curriculum really feed into this. So we have a lot of peer-led workshops on campus. So say you've taken, biochemistry, which is what I used to teach, and you really enjoyed the material, you got the material. The next year you could say, I want to be a peer leader or peer workshop leader in biochemistry. And you actually then work with the instructor and then with a group of undergraduates in that class, helping move them through the materials and expanding on what's in the lecture. And so this really builds on that student helping student vibe that we have, where you look at students as peers and as leaders, not as competitive forces. And I think that the way that we allow students the opportunity to be leaders and to be part of the group collaborative has really been very important to shaping how the students view one another as colleagues and not as competition.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the peer leading. I saw there was another question about that, but we do have a lot of opportunities for students to get involved in peer tutoring and peer workshop leading. We have a whole sort of program within the student life world on leadership and developing leaders, and it's called the Medallion Program. And they have a philosophy that's called positional leadership. It's not the president is the leader and everyone follows. It's everyone that's part of a team is actually in a position to make positive change from the position in which they are working. And that's really, that's something very explicitly sort of recognizing that we're working together to make positive change, whether it's in some club or organization that you're part of, whether it's part of some team for a project in your class, a research project or otherwise. I would agree with Wendy and Gloria that our students have very high expectations of themselves. They work very hard. But I don't see the competitiveness that you sometimes hear about at other schools. It's much more of a collaboration. And you'll see that if you look at huge number of student organizations and all the sort of social and community related stuff students do sort of reflects that.
Kind of speaking about students and trying to navigate the space from secondary school to university. There's a question about academic advising, and I know that at the University of Rochester, our academic advising is maybe not unique, but it is different from maybe some other places that they might encounter. So, would one or two of you, talk a little bit about the academic advising experience, especially for a first-year student navigating the curriculum?
I can take that since advising reports to me. So the structure we have, so we talk about the community of advisors. There's actually a lot of different people that are available to help students as they come in and try to figure out what they want to do, both within academic situations as well as student life and career. And for example, our current structure is that every student is assigned an undergraduate advisor. This is a person that they meet with to talk about what courses they're going to take, help them start thinking about what makes sense for the next semester, what the semester after that, start thinking about the different areas they're interested in pursuing. If you're in the Hajim school, then then you have a faculty advisor in a department plus an undergraduate coordinator in that program that will help. Then as students get a little further along, typically around sophomore year, end of sophomore year, sometime during sophomore year, students will declare one of their majors. If they're having a major, one major, then they declare their major. When they declare their major, then they get a new advisor, an additional advisor, who's someone from that department or that program who's specifically trained to help students think about what they can do to be successful in that area. Many of our students have double majors or a major and a minor, or a major, they also will be involved, have clusters. And so sometimes students will end up being advised by numerous advisors across these different areas. So if a student has a double major, they're going to have an advisor in one department and an advisor in another department or program. And so this team of advisors is really all the people that sort of support the student as they're going through. And then of course, students, we have advisors in the Career Center, we have advisors in the Office of Minority Student Affairs, in the Kern Center. We have advisors in all these different offices depending on the different parts, the different communities that the students are part of. There's lots of different people to help them. But there's definitely a very clear academic advising part. And I mentioned that because the curriculum is flexible, students really do need to talk to people and play their ideas off of someone else and help think about what's the right path through to get where they're trying to meet the goals the students have for themselves.
Can I piggyback on that for one thing? Something that Jeff said, I think really actually gets back to the collaborative versus competitive nature. And that is, since our curriculum is so open, you and your best friend can have the same major and do clusters in the same area, and your transcripts can look completely different. The students totally own the sculpting of what their academic program looks like. There are requirements within majors, you have to do certain things, but there are always electives. Even if you say you're a bio major and you're doing an anthropology cluster and your best friend is doing the same thing, in the end you may have very different things and very different on your transcripts, very different people writing you letters of recommendation. So I think that this whole idea of the way our curriculum works also feeds into this idea that the students are not so much in competition, but in collaboration. And the peer-to-peer comparisons are different because the experiences are in fact crafted by the individual.
I realize we're coming up on the hour, and I want to certainly be conscientious of everybody's time, but there was a couple questions that kind of speak to, point out it was, why should somebody choose the University of Rochester? And I'm going to phrase it a little bit differently because I know that for a lot of our admitted students, they have wonderful opportunities at wonderful institutions across the United States, and ultimately sometimes it comes down to fit, and that doesn't mean that one place is better than another. But at the same time, I think that from your three experiences, you've been with the university for a long time, and maybe I'll phrase it in this way: what one thing or two things do you think a student and a family should know about the University of Rochester, that whether they can remember everything else, but the one or two things that you think is important for them to know about the University of Rochester and why you've enjoyed being at the university for as long as you have?
I guess I'll start because no one else is jumping off their mute buttons. I think that there are a few things. I think the open curriculum and the way you can design your own undergraduate path is hugely important and is quite unique. I think the sense of community that we have here as on campus, but also more broadly into the surrounding areas, is also not necessarily something you'll find someplace else. And I think the level of engagement of students, faculty, staff, and administrators is very, we're very open door, we're very hands-on. Our new president, Sarah Mangelsdorf, likes to tell the story of wanting to go out and buy coffee at Starbucks and her staff saying, oh no, we'll go get that for you. And her saying, no, I really want to get out and talk to students and talk to people. And I don't want to just sit in my office. And that is sort of indicative of how many of us feel about our engagement here, as we're here for very specific reasons. So I'll leave it for Wendy and Jeff.
Well, I'll say something that we haven't talked about Gloria touched on it a little bit. So we're the college in art sciences and engineering, but we're part of a larger university that includes several other really amazing units. We have the School of Medicine and Dentistry, which is literally across the street. It creates so many opportunities for students that want to get involved with medicine and dentistry or biological sciences at different levels, as well as our faculty and our staff. But on the other side, we have the Eastman School of Music, and the Eastman School of Music is really a gem in Rochester. It creates such a culture downtown. It's a short bus ride from our campus to the Eastman campus. Our students regularly take lessons at Eastman, so if you play an instrument, you can take lessons and get credit for it. It's that to me, that was for me. It's been a really great thing having Eastman right down the street, and it adds a real amazing feel to the culture of the city.
I don't have a huge amount to add. I think those are all real gems. I think it's just, you know, there's several unique opportunities given who we are, given our structure, given the fact that we have all of these other entities, like Jeff was mentioning, the Med Center, the Eastman School, the Warner School of Education. There's just a lot of, it's just sort of in our culture and in our DNA to collaborate and to think broadly, to think outside of sort of the siloed individual majors. And I think that presents a lot of real great opportunities. And, you know, I mean, the word is often used a lot within engineering context, but I think it's broader than engineering. I think our students and our faculty and our staff, they're very entrepreneurial and just looking at what are opportunities, how do you make things happen, how do you look at problems, figure out what the constraints are, and then move forward with solutions. And I think that that's a really exciting environment to be within. And again, I'll close with our motto of Meliora, of trying to make the world and everything around us, ourselves personally, as well as our communities, ever better. I think that is something that really defines the University of Rochester.
Well, again, I can't thank the three of you enough for taking time to meet with our folks. It looks like we've got about 60 attendees that are here. And on behalf of the University of Rochester, certainly the Office of Admission, Financial Aid Enrollment, again, congratulations to all of you for your acceptance, for all of the great things that you've done academically throughout your communities. As Dr. Hiezelman said, you know, ever better. And, you know, one of the reasons you were chosen to be admitted to the University of Rochester, because we strongly felt you would make us better by choosing to come to the University of Rochester. But regardless of where you ultimately end up, you'll do wonderful things. And we wish you all the best moving forward. Continue to check out the admissions website. We have virtual opportunities throughout the rest of the month with academic departments, different entities within the university. We want to make sure that you have all of your questions answered before you make the very difficult and important decision of where to call home for the next 4 years and beyond. So thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe and have a great evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.